Of a straight final, event number 66. This is the women's senior 52 kilogram Coxed 4, also known as the flyweight Coxed 4. We have in lane 4 Buffalo Scholastic, lane 5 St. Catharines, and lane 6 Wyandotte. Quick shout out to the coach of the Buffalo Scholastic crew. Happy birthday to Coach Kim.
Now, this is a straight final. You will see that not all the lanes are full like you might be used to seeing, so there were only 3 entries this year in the women's senior 52 kilo Cox 4. One of the things you might find, certainly we saw it in the men's senior flyweight, that's the 64 kilogram single a couple events ago. That was subscribed to. There were a number of athletes who were under 19, some of them even perhaps under 17. That is one thing you will find in these flyweight, the below lightweight weight categories. Very, smaller athletes perhaps in situations where they haven't hit puberty yet. So it really is a mixed bag. Even though it is a senior event, it's open. It can be athletes of any age.
I first won this event in 2012, so I was well into my senior years of racing, Brent. So you're totally right, and I know some of the women that we were lining up against were a little bit younger than that. But they are off, and they're clear of the red buoys in about 3-4 more strokes. And it does look like these women are battling against a little bit more of a headwind. Not anything like what we saw on Friday for sure, but it'll definitely make things a little bit more challenging as they are smaller athletes competing with a coxswain. So that's an added little bit of resistance for them.
It does seem to be Wyandotte, of course, only just 100 meters into the race, so anything really can change. There's still a significant portion of the race still to come, but it did seem to be Wyandotte kind of jumping the gun quick off the gates, and we'll see if they can hold on to that lead. Of course, Wyandotte just near Detroit in Michigan, United States, about 4 hours west of here, constantly a presence here at the Royal Canadian Henley. Indeed, even one of the trophies we have, one of the events we hosted earlier in the week, named for the Wyandotte Club. So it's nice to see them again, contenders here in the straight final of the women's flyweight Coxed 4 that is approaching the 500-meter mark.
St. Catharines crew looking like they're rowing very, very strong. Despite being smaller athletes, their coach Liz Ianezzi was one of my very first coach, actually my actual very first coach. I'm sure she's been working with under 17 athletes for a long, long time, and her crews are looking quite strong.
Very exciting, but it does seem to be still Wyandotte holding their lead, approaching the 500-meter marker. Actually, a pretty substantial lead, I think, for just 1/4 of the race being done. It might even be open water, I think, with Wyandotte ahead of St. Catharines Rowing Club, ahead of Buffalo Scholastic. Yeah, it does seem to be a little bit of open water, so maybe a 4-second lead, I would think, for Wyandotte over St. Catharines, with perhaps a 2-second lead over Buffalo Scholastic.
Interesting that they're still quite tight because this is a final only. They wouldn't have competed in heats or semifinals, so they go right into the final not knowing who their competition really is going to be in the boats beside them.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, Ali, it's been a while since I've competed or followed Row Ontario's. I know you were heavily involved with the organization. Was there a version of this event at the Row Ontario Championships this year, the Flyweight Women's Cox 4?
That's a really good point, Brent. So historically, the flyweight event, really the only chance they're going to get to race this is at Henley. I know in the past, sometimes at the St. Catharines Invitational, also here on the Martindale Pond, they would also have that event. But these women probably for the first time will be rowing here at Henley. They might practice this by racing perhaps a Junior B Coxed 4 or the senior lightweight straight 4, but the flyweight 4 is it's an event almost unique to Henley.
That is true. I have to wonder then, given the athletes are obviously flyweight, and perhaps some of them junior, being under 19, will not turn 19 this year, likely in high school. I have to wonder if any of these athletes will have raced in the flyweight event categories at Schoolboy. That's the Canadian Secondary School Rowing Association Championships here in St. Catharines, because that they had this year for the first time the flyweight quad. They used to have the flyweight Cox 4 like we're seeing right now. They changed it last year so that this year at Schoolboy it was the flyweight quad, straight quad. No coxies in those, and obviously sculling a little different from sweeping, but these athletes racing here at Canadian Henley in the flyweight women's coxed 4, and wow, Wyandotte absolutely dominating this race through the first half, the first 1,000 meters. I'm just going to clock them right now and see how much of a lead they've got over St. Catharines. I am really impressed with how those ladies are rowing.
You could see there their coxswain Raquel just took a second to take a little peek over her shoulder even to see what the gap was.
Yeah, and by my watch, that's just over 8 seconds lead over St. Catharines, who is still really battling it out. Buffalo Scholastic still just 2 seats down on St. Catharines, so really tight battle, tight racing still for second place. But of course, this is the Royal Canadian Henley Regatta, and you can only come home with a Henley Gold.
These women are racing for the Rhonda Henning Memorial Trophy, and fun fact about this trophy, given that these might be the smallest athletes in the entire regatta, Brent, it might be the largest trophy down there.
I do feel it is a safe bet to say these are likely the smallest athletes.
They're doing a fantastic job. Again, the athletes themselves will have to step on the scale weighing no more than 52 kilos. That's about 115 pounds. The coxswain, an interesting fact, the coxswain actually has to weigh more. So the coxswain will have to weigh at minimum 55 kilograms, which is about 121 pounds. So they are rowing, and between the 4 athletes, they'll distribute the weight of that coxswain in the bow.
Wow. Just wow. That is something I tend to forget, obviously, having raced as a male lightweight athlete. The difference between, especially the flyweight, which I was never quite that small. Really impressive that these ladies, these athletes are able and very capable, doing an excellent job, of course, here Wyandotte and certainly St. Catharines and Buffalo Scholastic, no slouches, to be pulling the coxies that are really weighing, as you say, more than those athletes are. That is an impressive feat. And Wyandotte just dominating this race.
Wyandotte absolutely having a really great race. And, you know, we talk about the size of the athlete. They're rigged in a way that they're as efficient as they possibly can be. And because they're smaller athletes, there's less body weight to really carry around. So you'll notice their stroke rate, Brent, might be a little bit higher. They might be trying to get more strokes in and just keep their boat moving as fast as possible.
Yeah, so even though they do have a substantial lead, I just clocked Wyandotte at about 36 strokes a minute. So they do have that substantial lead, not letting up on the gas. They see there is still a tight battle. I'm sure those girls and the leading crew of Wyandotte, they're well aware there's a tight battle between St. Catharines and Buffalo. We do have the lead. We're not going to let up. We're not going to leave this to chance. We're not going to risk any mistakes. We're going to keep the foot on the gas paddle. We're going to go all the way through to the line. We're going to put down the fastest time that we can, which is really, I think you can find that sometimes when you're in this situation, it's easy to let up a bit. But that is really just inviting chances for disaster, and these athletes, well trained, responding well, executing well, and really sending it down, racing to the line, even though they're not being pushed too closely.
These women from Wyandotte, I'm sure they're also motivated by the fact that last year Wyandotte also won this event in a time of 7:53.39. It's exciting. You do tend to see in events like this, which are, you know, almost like a little bit of a specialty, I guess, that you do tend to see the same crew. So St. Catharines is one crew that I would almost guarantee to be in this every year. South Niagara, quite frequently, we would see in this event. Of course, I raced for St. Catharines when I won this in 2012.
So we will just do a bit of a shout out to those athletes from Wyandotte. So from the bow, that's Mackenzie Kicker, Carolyn Collada, Elise Fesland, Alessandro Dagno, and Raquel Morabito. And of course, Coach Patrick Knipe, I'm sure watching from the island as his athletes rode past as they had a pretty substantial lead coming past the island. And it's going to be Wyandotte, short of really a miracle. There's about 5, maybe 10 strokes left for those athletes. I don't think really anything's going to change, Hallie.
I'm sure these women are very excited. This is the end of a long week, and it looks like Wyandotte unofficially coming through the line. And their coxswain celebrating before she's even through the buoys. That's really quite exciting for them. And let's see how it plays out for the next 2 crews from Buffalo Scholastic and St. Catharines.
I can't help but notice in the picture-in-picture just the pure excitement from coxswain Raquel Morabito and, of course, bow seats Mackenzie Kicker. they are thrilled and elated. Just seeing the little hand grab there after they've been splashing the water. Well done to those athletes. A commanding performance in the women's senior 52 kilogram coxed four.
And that's a quite a quick time there in 8 minutes 29 seconds. So they're doing quite well there.